Hello, and welcome to Scratch Paper, a writing-related podcast. My name is Alicia de los Reyes, and this is episode 19. So last week, I talked about marketing for writers, and I gave kind of an overview of all the things that I do. And I thought I would dive more deeply into marketing for writers, and so I'm hoping to make this a series. And this week, I'm going to talk about the purpose of my marketing and my goals for marketing. But first, I want to give you a quick writing and reading update. Writing-wise, I've written a couple more pages of my new novel, and I still really like it. And reading-wise, I read another mystery, but I didn't like it as much. It was set in the 20s, which was fun to read, and it was really good writing, but I just didn't love the storyline, so nothing to recommend there. But I'm looking for more mysteries, so... I also started a book about mystery writing by P.G. Wodehouse, and that has been pretty interesting too. So let's get into the lessons. So, like I said, this is all about the purpose of marketing, or the purpose of my marketing. And I mentioned last time, episode 18, that I have had a lot of different goals for my marketing. By which I mean like immediate goals, like sell ebooks or get visitors to my website, or even just look professional, like make my website look professional, or get an agent to notice me or my work. But throughout all of those different smaller goals, I've always had a couple big goals, and they are to get a traditional book deal and to support myself and contribute to my family through writing. So those things are all kind of interconnected, and they've changed for me, and still are changing. I'm not sure the best way to make a living as a writer. I'm still feeling that out, and right now I'm home with my kiddo, so that's not my main goal, because I just don't have time for that. But I was thinking about this some more, and since having a kid and stopping working, a lot of things have shifted for me and changed, and I've had to think about, like, what is my really... Like, why do I care so much? Why do I want a traditional book deal? Why do I want to make a living as a writer, contribute to my family as a writer? And I've discovered that when it comes down to it, the only thing I want, and the only thing I think probably a lot of people want, is to be happy and healthy and to have a happy, healthy family. And for me, that means that I need time to write, and I need to write. So... that is what I think about and focus on now, especially when I'm thinking about marketing, because marketing is sort of tangential to the actual writing. So the target that I shoot for when I'm thinking about marketing is, will this help me write? Because if it's not going to help me write, then it's just taking away from my precious little time that I have for writing, and that will eventually make me sad if I don't do any writing. So as an example of what I mean by this podcast is like, one way of thinking about it is a marketing tool. I didn't start it because I was like, I need to market myself, I should make a podcast. But it acts as a marketing tool because, I find like new people on different platforms than I otherwise normally would. It introduces people to my name, my website, my ebooks perhaps. And so it is in some ways a marketing tool. Hopefully also it's helpful and useful and enjoyable, and I don't care if you ever go to my website or buy any of my ebooks. But so anyway, that's why I'm using this podcast as an example. So I started this podcast while I was revising my novel, Finding Lucy. And that was a really solitary activity, especially because I was home with like a newborn infant, very tiny baby, and had to do like all the revising while the bean was napping. And so I am not a solitary person. I'm not an introvert. I'm not one of those writers who's like, yes, let me sit in the library all day and not talk to anybody and write. Though I sometimes do like to do that. That's not like what I live for. And so was like, I really wanted to talk to people about writing, but I didn't actually have the capacity to like go to a writing group, or even to like join a new forum or something like that. I didn't really want to I wasn't really ready to interact with people, but I missed people, if that makes sense. So I started this podcast, and it helped me to write because it basically gave me like some invisible accountability, right? So I had this imaginary audience. I built in the writing and reading updates into every episode. And so every time I went to record an episode, I would have to write first because I wanted to have something to tell my imaginary audience. And in my head, I was thinking, when I'm done with this revision, I will eventually put this all online and I will have a real audience. So it wasn't like totally delusional, but I also didn't put any pressure on myself to actually show it to the world if I didn't want to. Like if I listened to the episodes and I thought, man, I was really crazy, it was really obvious I hadn't spoken to people in like outside my family for months, then, not totally true, but then I wouldn't have to put them online. So it was totally just it didn't start out as a marketing tool. It started out as something that would hopefully encourage me to write. So when I was done revising Finding Lucy, I reflected again, thought, do I want to upload it? Listened to a few and thought I liked them. Fine. And what I remember thinking is, this really did help me to write because it gave me, I kind of was trying to record 1 or 2 a week. And so it gave me a specific deadline or goal to shoot for each week, writing once or twice a week. But it was flexible enough and low pressure enough. Anyway, it did help me to write. Like recording a podcast, even for no real audience, did help me to write. And I thought, this has been a positive thing in my life. I'm going to try and upload it and see if it continues to be positive, if it continues to help me write. So that was an experiment. And that's when I guess it became a marketing tool because I started sharing it. Well, I put it on iTunes, so a brand new platform. I put it on my website, which was kind of like reviving my website. I don't think I had posted in maybe like a year or more. And I also shared it on Instagram, which I had just joined, and on Twitter. And so I started both doing marketing for the podcast and thinking of the podcast a bit as a marketing tool because now I was going to reach other people. And I found that I really liked having people listen. It was really fun connecting with people who I knew but didn't live close by, and with friends of my sister and other people who I was who gave me enthusiastic, kind responses and who made me just feel so good about sharing it. I just love that. So thank you to Hope especially, and also to Tony, for, cheering me on. But then I also, this is what I think the tricky part about marketing is. It's really easy to get addicted to those likes and shares or whatever, the listens, the number of listens. And that's where I think people get caught up because you can, if you want to, spend all your time marketing and none of your time writing. And for me, with my little kid at home and the limited time that I have, it's so clear to me how, I can count the number of hours that I have to myself each week. And it's not that many. And I could very, very easily spend all of them writing and recording this podcast, updating my blog, writing my newsletter, tweeting, going more on Instagram. So I try to keep coming back to this question, is it helping me write? And that helps me to limit the things that I do each week. And also I think the building in the accountability that I have, writing and reading update, maybe it's not super exciting to you, but it really does keep me on track, making sure I have something to share each week. So that's the example of how a tool can be a marketing thing, but it can also help you. And I would say the podcast has definitely helped me to keep writing by keeping me accountable, and also just by giving me like something kind of like a break from writing, because those times in my life where I have just written, like I said, I'm an extrovert. I like talking to people, and writing is so much of like not only solitary activity, but also like shooting your work into the void and hoping that it comes back with acceptances. And so often you just get rejected and rejected, or worse, no reaction at all. So I kind of try and use this measure, is this helping me write, when I think about other platforms. And I definitely do plenty of things that do not help me write, but are, like marketing related. Like I go on Twitter. That has never helped me write. I cannot think of a single time when Twitter has helped me write. Facebook did not help me write. When I was writing my thesis, I found myself like literally writing one sentence and then going to check Facebook. And so I actually got off of Facebook back when I wrote my thesis in 2013, and I have not gotten back on, and I feel really good about that decision. And Instagram does not usually help me write, but it is fun. And I feel like it's also a platform where I can find other people like me, like other people who are trying to be successful in the ways that I'm trying to be successful, and who are encouraging and uplifting. And Instagram is also pretty apolitical, at least the people I follow. So I like it for kind of just like diversionary and enjoyment purposes. But I try not to spend too much time on it. And then things that do help me write: podcast listens, like I said, though I have to not check them all the time. Ebook sales help me write. Reviews of my ebooks, when I get a nice review, it like really makes my day. Nice comments on my site and on my articles that I've written, those make me smile, and that helps me to write. So it's not like black and white, and I'm not perfect by any means, but I think that this is a good rule, at least for me. Is this helping me write? Marketing is in service of writing for me, and so if it's not doing that, if it's not helping me write, I should stop doing it. So I care that it also means that this like rule means that I'm definitely less consistent and less maybe professional, or less successful at getting new followers or connecting with the followers that I do have than other people are, but I'm okay with that. So like I said, this podcast has the writing and reading update. If I don't have something to share, I really try hard not to not to record a podcast, because the point is to keep myself writing. And if I don't feel like writing, that's fine. But usually I don't feel like podcasting either. And so that means that I don't necessarily post a podcast each week, and I'm fine with that. I don't want it to be the other way around. I don't want to have the podcast run each week and not be writing each week. So yeah, those are my thoughts on my purposes for marketing. Next week, I'll get more into kind of the nuts and bolts of how I do the marketing that I do, and how I've done some other things in the past, and kind of like the best practices that I was talking about last week, being consistent and trying new things. But I would love to hear your goals for marketing and why you market, and what you're trying. So please feel free to comment on the show notes, which are at aliciadelosreyes.com, ALICIA, D as in dog, E, L as in llama, O-S, REYES.com. You can also tweet me. I'm at Likes Oatmeal, and I'm on Instagram as at Likes Oatmeal, and you can always find me there too. So you can leave a comment on Instagram, tweet me, or leave a comment on the show notes. And I would love to hear your goals for marketing, what questions about marketing you have, and the different things that you're trying. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great week.